Dustin shocked me because we were shooting a scene.
Meryl Streep has nothing left to prove. With more Academy Award nominations than any actor in history, she's become the gold standard of Hollywood excellence. For decades, she's remained silent about the peers she admires most, until now. In a rare moment of reflection, Meryl finally opens up about the 6 actors who truly moved her, inspired her, and by her own words, changed the way I think about acting. So who are they, and what made them so unforgettable in Meryl's eyes? Stay with us as we uncover the 6 actors Meryl Streep loves above all. Robert De Niro, the quiet hurricane. When Meryl Streep speaks of Robert De Niro, there's a rare softness in her voice. She once described him as a man of few words, but infinite emotion. Their bond began in 1978 on the set of The Deer Hunter, where Streep, then a rising star, watched in awe as De Niro immersed himself in a role with silent, explosive precision. He didn't just play a character, Meryl once said. He vanished into one. Their collaboration became more than just on-screen chemistry. It was a shared reverence for the craft. De Niro's subtlety, his refusal to overperform, deeply shaped Meryl's own acting philosophy. She studied him closely, even mimicking his methodical preparation and emotional restraint. To her, De Niro was the perfect paradox, emotionally volcanic, yet quiet as snowfall. Years later, they reunited in Falling in Love, 1984, a quiet drama that never garnered the fame of their earlier work, but held a sacred place in Meryl's heart. She called it a love story between 2 actors, 2 souls navigating silence. Off-screen, De Niro never sought the spotlight, and that too inspired her. He never chased fame. He chased truth, Meryl told an audience at the Kennedy Center Honors. And in doing so, he made the rest of us braver. Their friendship, though rarely photographed, endures as one of mutual admiration and deep artistic kinship. Streep has publicly stated that if she could act beside one person for the rest of her life, it would be Robert De Niro. That kind of praise, coming from the most decorated actress in cinematic history, isn't given lightly. For Meryl, De Niro wasn't just a colleague, he was a silent compass, guiding her through the emotional storms of storytelling. Viola Davis, the fire that burns from within. When asked who among the newer generation of actors truly took her breath away, Meryl Streep didn't hesitate. Viola Davis. She's a storm, Meryl once said. Controlled, grounded. But when she moves, my God, she moves mountains. Their powerful on-screen pairing in Doubt, 2008, lasted just one scene, barely 8 minutes. But in those minutes, Davis delivered a performance so shattering, so layered, that even Streep, known for stealing every scene, felt overshadowed. And she loved it. That day, Meryl recalled, I walked out of the church not thinking about my lines or my role. I walked out thinking, who is this woman? Viola Davis's performance didn't just impress Meryl, it humbled her. For someone with dozens of nominations and decades of experience to say that she learned something new from a peer is no small confession. But Meryl has always respected artistry over ego. And with Davis, she saw raw power cloaked in grace. What struck Meryl most was Davis's willingness to go where most actors fear to tread, the unflattering emotions, the silences heavy with pain, the truths no one wants to speak. In every role, Davis bleeds honesty. She doesn't just play the truth, Meryl said in a tribute. She sits in it. She breathes it. You feel it pouring off her like heat. Over the years, their mutual admiration has blossomed. Davis has called Streep a lighthouse, while Meryl calls Davis the pulse. And though their careers came from different places, Streep from Yale, Davis from Juilliard, one white, one black, they share the same sacred obsession, making every role mean something. Perhaps what Meryl admires most about Viola Davis is her unshakable authenticity, both as an actress and a woman. She never acts for applause. She acts for revelation. And in a business that often rewards noise over nuance, that kind of bravery leaves a lasting impression. Bye. Philip Seymour Hoffman, the soul drenched in sadness. For Meryl Streep, Philip Seymour Hoffman wasn't just an actor. He was a haunting presence, one that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. Their collaboration in Doubt, 2008, was intense, intimate, and unforgettable. But their connection ran deeper than a single film. It was a kinship of minds, of emotional intelligence, and of a shared understanding of the darker corners of humanity. He carried pain in his bones, Meryl once said, and he poured it into every character with such aching honesty. Watching Hoffman act, Meryl felt as if she was peering into a private journal. He was never flashy, never concerned with how he looked on screen. What mattered to him was emotional accuracy, how a moment felt rather than how it was received. She admired that, deeply. Their scenes in Doubt weren't just scripted battles, they were symphonies of restraint, tension, and vulnerability. Meryl later admitted that Hoffman was one of the few actors who could truly shake her off balance. And for someone so composed and precise, that was a rare and beautiful gift. But it wasn't just his performances that left a mark. It was his humility. He didn't act to be admired, Meryl told Vanity Fair after his death. He acted to understand. And in doing that, he made us understand more about ourselves. Hoffman's passing in 2014 hit Meryl hard. Not just because the world lost an exceptional artist, but because she lost a kindred spirit. She attended his memorial with tears in her eyes and a silence that said more than words ever could. Years later, she would still bring him up during interviews, her voice cracking just slightly when mentioning his name. There was admiration, yes, but also heartbreak. If he were still here, she said softly in one rare moment, he'd be the one we're all learning from. In her heart, Hoffman wasn't just a favorite actor. He was an emotional mirror, one who reflected the beauty and brokenness that every great performer strives to reveal. 4. Cate Blanchett, the chameleon queen. Few actors have ever made Meryl Streep pause and whisper, "How did she do that?" But Cate Blanchett has done it, more than once. She disappears, Meryl once marveled, utterly, completely, and frighteningly. From Elizabeth to Blue Jasmine, from Carol to Tar, Blanchett has mastered the uncanny ability to vanish into her characters with an elegance that borders on supernatural. For Meryl, that's not just talent, it's alchemy. She's like water, Streep said. She fills the shape of whatever vessel she's poured into, and yet she never loses her power. There is no envy between them, only awe. In fact, when both were nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars, Meryl reportedly leaned in and whispered to Cate, "You better win this. You scared me." And Cate did win. For Blue Jasmine, a performance Meryl described as so cutting, so emotionally bare, it made the rest of us look like we were acting with gloves on. What Streep admires most is Blanchett's willingness to explore ambiguity, the moral gray zones where most actors hesitate to tread. In Tar, Blanchett played a character equal parts brilliant and brutal. There was no pandering for audience sympathy, no softening of edges. That, Meryl said in an interview, is real courage. That's a woman who respects the intelligence of her audience. But perhaps the most touching moment came during a tribute ceremony, where Meryl stood before a crowd and said simply, "Cate Blanchett makes me want to be better." That confession, humble, unforced, and deeply sincere, was a passing of the torch not just from one generation to another, but from one great to another. Cate Blanchett didn't just impress Meryl, she challenged her. And in a career filled with peaks, that challenge was a rare and precious gift. Paul Scofield, the actor's actor. Among all the names that Meryl Streep has ever praised, none came with more reverence than Paul Scofield. To the wider public, he might not be a household name like De Niro or Blanchett, but to actors, real actors, he was a quiet deity. And to Meryl, he was everything. "He was the reason I believed in the theater," she once said. "Before I ever touched a movie script, I listened to his voice and felt my bones tremble." Streep studied Scofield's work as a student at Yale. His portrayal of Sir Thomas More in A Man for All Seasons left a lifelong impression. It was in that performance, calm, controlled, yet intensely moral, that she saw how restraint could be more powerful than outburst, how a pause could thunder louder than a scream. When asked which performer shaped her the most, Meryl didn't hesitate. "Scofield," she said simply. "Always Scofield." Unlike many actors who pursued the spotlight, Scofield shunned it. He preferred the stage to the screen, the shadows to the limelight. He declined a knighthood. He rarely gave interviews. But when he spoke with gravity. To Meryl, that humility was its own kind of greatness. "There's a dignity to the way he moved," she explained. An integrity in every word he chose. It made you want to rise to his level. Though they never shared the screen, Meryl once had the chance to meet him backstage in London. She described it as one of the few moments in my life where I was truly speechless. Schofield passed in 2008, but Meryl still invokes his name with something close to sacredness. He reminded us that acting wasn't about fame or fortune, she told a class of young performers. It was about service, service to the story, to the truth, to something bigger than ourselves. In a world full of noise, Paul Schofield whispered. And for Meryl Streep, that whisper echoed louder than a roar. 6. Dustin Hoffman, The Reluctant Mirror. Their names have been spoken in the same breath for decades. Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman, two titans of American cinema, forever linked by one unforgettable film, Kramer versus Kramer. But behind the Oscar-winning masterpiece was a relationship layered in tension, admiration, and eventually respect. Meryl has never been one to gloss over history. She has openly acknowledged the difficult dynamic she shared with Hoffman on set. He was intense, sometimes too intense. He pushed boundaries, emotionally and physically. And at the time, it shook her. But, and this is key, Meryl never denied his brilliance. He forced something out of me I didn't know I had, she once said. And as painful as that was, I owe part of my voice as an actress to that experience. Kramer versus Kramer wasn't just a film. It was an emotional exorcism. Two young parents tearing each other apart over a child, played not just with technique, but with nerve endings exposed. Hoffman gave everything to that role, and Meryl responded in kind. The result was cinematic lightning. Years later, with time and perspective, Meryl's view of Hoffman deepened. Dustin taught me that discomfort doesn't mean disrespect, she explained. Sometimes it means someone sees more in you than you're ready to show. They may not have been best friends. They may not have shared warm off-screen chemistry. But Hoffman shaped Streep's career in a way few others did. He sharpened her instincts, made her tougher, bolder, more exacting. In many ways, he was a mirror, not always flattering, but always truthful. And Meryl, ever the student of emotion, values truth above all. He made me better, she said once, quietly, even if he didn't mean to. That kind of honesty, complex, unvarnished, and unflinching, is rare in Hollywood tributes. But that's Meryl. She doesn't admire people for being easy. She admires them for being real. And in Dustin Hoffman, she saw someone who made her dig deep, even when she didn't want to.